How's it? Welcome back to the channel. So here are my favorite things about having an at-home cold plunge setup that I got, where I was talking with a buddy of mine the other day. And of course, the question it always comes up, like, why do you even have it? Like, what's the point? So here are my two favorite things about it that can be felt like directly in the moment. Now, of course, they say cold plunge helps with like recovering stuff from working out and things, but you know, that seems to be like a pretty subtle effect, or at least it's hard to really notice it like in the moment or the next day. Like, you know, if I have a really hard class or something to work out really hard, I'll hop into the cold plunge because I'm told it's supposed to help with recovery, but I still wake up sore the next day, you know, maybe a little bit less sore than I would have been if I didn't hop in the cold plunge, but nonetheless, you know, still pretty sore. So these two things can absolutely be felt directly in the moment. The other cool thing about this is it doesn't have to be like, you know, like the super cold type of cold plunge, like, you know, 37, 35 degrees or something like that. Like, to me, if I drop it down to like to the 50s, that's totally good enough. So the first thing is just, you know, when you hop out, you feel refreshed and cool. It's a nice way to kind of wake you up. You can kind of curb your caffeine intake by making use of an at-home cold plunge, or, you know, a cold plunge in general. But this is what I've been making use of it the most recently, where, you know, it's the hot months of the year over here. And it's been, you know, the past like month or so, it's been like really hot, where I'm sleeping most nights with no blanket. Like, we do have an AC in our bedroom, but we won't run it most nights. We only run it on the nights when we have our kids sleeping in the room with us. That way, if they make noise or they need us or something, we can more easily hear them. But, you know, if you can drop it down to like the 50s or maybe even high 50s, 60s, I've even had this work. You know, if it's warmer, you know, a little bit warmer, like say in the 60s or something like that, you just got to stay in there longer. But if you get it down to like to the 50s, high 50s, you know, maybe by the time you get out, it's in like the low 60s or whatever, you can sit in there for like 5-6 minutes or so, and then it drops your core body temperature enough that when you're going to sleep, you're actually cool. And of course, I like to use a blanket. I find it more comfortable with a blanket. I have like the best blanket ever. I've made a bunch of videos on it. Go check my channel if you want to see it. But I prefer to sleep with a blanket, just that it's been so hot that I cannot. But if you can drop your core body temperature enough from sitting in the cold plunge, then when you're going to sleep, you can still use the blanket. You don't got to have the fan on super high. The other thing that's been happening to me as well is it's been so hot that we put our fan on higher, and the way it's set up, it kind of like ends up blowing on my face, and I wake up with like a sore throat and things like that. So being able to get cold in the cold plunge and then being able to go to sleep, it's been working amazing. Also, when we go to sleep, that's, you know, our normal time to go to sleep, it's like when your body temperature is reaching about its lowest it is throughout the 24-hour period. You actually reach like the peak lowest body temperature, like, you know, partway through the night. But nonetheless, when you're going to sleep, part of the process is your body wants to kind of cool off and drop that core body temperature. So you can kind of like jumpstart that process by hopping in the cold plunge. You hop out, you're cold for a good, you know, easy hour plus off of that. So it gives you a nice, gives you a good amount of time to relax in bed and fall asleep. And then, you know, it works out amazing. And then, of course, partway through the night, you might get hot and maybe got to take the blanket off. But at least around here, once it hits like, you know, later into the night, like earlier in the morning, whatever, 2 a.m. or something like that. And then the temperature starts to get decently reasonable. So I could use a blanket anyway, even if I didn't go into the cold plunge before that. But it's been working amazing. Also, shout out to Red Ratio over here, where I've been working on like little like sleep, also like a lucid dreaming experiment with this the past couple of weeks. So I've actually been like, you know, incentivized to prioritize getting a lot better sleep, or getting a lot more sleep, which has been really, really good here as of late. You know, also there's no like video game I've been particularly stuck on, so I've been able to go to sleep at like, you know, between like 9 and 10 p.m. and it's just been amazing. So anyway, yeah, cold plunge setups are awesome. And also, they don't gotta be that expensive. You know, I was at one point gonna try to get like a spa level $4,000 cold plunge, but just couldn't really justify spending that much money on it. So you can do it a pretty cheap way. You can buy one of these like $70 inflatable, slightly insulated. I mean, they're not really insulated all that well, but you know, these big tubs that you can fit in, or you can get like a Rubbermaid big container to sit inside or something big enough to fill with water that you can fit in, obviously. Then you can get like, I have this industrial level ice maker, got it for like $400 or $500 from Walmart. You know, plug that thing in. It does take a lot of upkeep, and I've thought I've almost broke it a few times, but I've learned how to take better care of it, you know, over the year plus that I've had it. And it's been working great, you know, after I learned how to kind of keep that thing running. It's still working great, kicking strong. So, you know, for like $500, you know, every few years or so, hopefully it keeps working for another few years on me. Totally well worth it. So if anybody's interested, you can get it done pretty cheaply that way. And with that said, yeah, that'll wrap it up until the next video. Keep your sleep practices and your cold plunge legit.